Howdy! Welcome to our talk show, Innovation Matters. My name is Karok Ray. This is sponsored by the Mays Innovation Research Center, which is an academic research center here at Texas A&M. Our mission is to understand the true nature of innovation and to spread that knowledge across campus as well as beyond. This talk show is part of that effort. Today we are delighted to have Christopher Liu here, who is an Aggie who's come back to campus to talk to us about his Bitcoin journey. Chris right now is the founder and CEO of Financial Freedom for Physicians, and is a doctor himself, or he was no longer practicing, but is trained as an MD PhD, and which is really a very high end kind of doctor. And he's going to tell us a little bit about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and his life story. So, Chris, welcome to Aggie Land.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be back on campus and just to see the growth and the innovation, and I'm really happy to be talking to you guys.
Great, thank you, Chris. So let's dive right in. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about your. I know that we met at our Bitcoin conference, which is something we do every year here at Texas A&M. Bitcoin is one of our major initiatives of research here at Texas A&M and at the Mays Innovation Research Center. So please follow us for updates on our Bitcoin conference. But tell us a little bit, before we get to Bitcoin, tell us where you grew up and how you got to Aggie Land the first time.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in the Woodlands, Texas. It's now a very large town. And I am actually grew up on the cusp of Gen X and millennials. So I grew up through the pre-internet, through Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3. And at the time I chose A&M, it was down to three schools. It was A&M, WashU, St. Louis, and UT. And so I visited all three campuses, and I really, because I was taking the long-term strategic approach to my education and career, because I was really focused on getting into medical school, becoming a physician. So I wanted something where it was low risk but high reward. And so A&M was close to home. It was very had some of my same values, and I also got a presidential endowed scholarship to come here.
Great.
So, and I was very strategic in how I approached my education, and so I ended up here.
Great, excellent. And what did you study when you were here?
I was a chemistry major, and
Wow.
So it's really interesting to be on the business side of things, because most of my career now is on the business side. But I started out in the science building, and I was at the medical school, and
wow.
And so graduated in 2000. University scholar, summa cum laude,
Great,
and all that.
great. Wow, chemistry, that's pretty hard. And did you go straight into your MD PhD? Is that right?
Yeah.
And were you part of the MSTP program? Is that right?
Well, I was part of the Baylor MSTP program.
Oh, you were, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just to I mean, my memory of this is a little dated, but this is a pretty competitive program, right? Is it a 7-year MD PhD?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that right?
Yeah, it's 7 years, and you do your first 2 years medical school, and then you do your graduate training, and then you go back and finish your medical training, do residency. And they only take 10 students per year out of a class of around, at that time the class was 160.
Wow.
So it was very competitive.
At Baylor, right? Is that
Baylor,
right?
yeah.
At Baylor, yeah. So when I was in college at the University of Chicago, I remember I graduated in 1999, and there were a lot of, the most competitive program was the MUD-FUD program, the MD PhDs. Those are I mean, it was hard enough to get into U.S. medical school, but then the MD PhD program is extremely competitive. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, did you finish that program?
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
Yeah,
and did you have a specialty or?
Yeah, I matched into orthopedic surgery. And I practiced for a number of years. I saw really a lot of changes in how healthcare was being administered, and just the cost, and a lot of the inefficiency. So during that time, I was studying a lot in investing, and I was investing in real estate and stocks. And we'll talk about crypto a little bit later. But I was really diversifying everything: my finances, my skill set, my experiences, so that come time for different crashes such as 2008 and 2020, I'd be well positioned to benefit from those.
Oh, great, excellent. That's great. I mean, that's a nice hobby you had, because as a highly trained doctor and physician, that's that's not exactly what you were trained to do, but
Yeah.
you still did that. That's great. That's
Yeah.
good that you have broad interests. That's a good lesson for the students.
Yeah. For the students, I really recommend don't get pigeonholed into one particular specialty or one particular direction, but keep your interests open. Really diversify your skill sets.
Yeah.
Really focus on emotional intelligence, communication, leadership, as well as excelling academically.
Right. And so you did practice as an orthopedic surgeon for
Yeah.
several years?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I practiced from 2000 all the way up to 2007 to 2016.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and really my spark into entrepreneurship really came after the 2008 financial crisis when a lot of the real estate was severely undervalued. So I was really taking my earned income and just buying single family undervalued real estate.
Uh-huh.
And so 2008 to 2016, I was just investing, and by 2016, I was able to retire early, became a multimillionaire in my mid-30s, and since then I started Financial Freedom for Physicians.
Oh, great. And it was all from the real estate primarily?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this was real estate, where was it? All across Houston or Texas or everywhere?
It was mostly in the Texas Medical Center. So
Uh-huh.
there's a really interesting market in the medical center because there's so many doctors, students, nursing,
Yeah.
pharmacists that go there to study. So they're all in need of housing.
Uh-huh.
And it was really extremely cheap to buy real estate. A 2-bed, 2-bath condo, 1,500 square feet. Back then, you could buy for 70,000, 80,000.
Oh, really?
So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
pretty good.
So I really took advantage of those.
And you were renting
opportunities.
those out?
Yeah, renting those out.
Oh, okay.
And it was real estate really gave me a great opportunity to learn business and hone my investing skills.
I see. And so you saw what is it that you saw in that? What prompted that opportunity for you? Was it that you noticed that there was a large need for housing, for short-term housing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing was, and for the listeners, one thing was I missed out on the internet boom because I was so focused on getting into medical school, getting my training. Well, a lot of my friends, they went into tech and they got rich through Amazon and all of
Yeah.
that. So I missed that boat, but really during my training, I really focused on seizing the next opportunity. So really when 2008 hit, I knew that was my moment to really capture opportunity and get in when everybody was, Warren Buffett says, when everybody's fearful,
right.
get greedy. So
that's when you bought most of your properties, right? During
Yeah.
during the housing crash.
during the
Interesting.
right after the housing crash and during the and Houston experienced a boom from 2011 to around 2016 because there were so many healthcare jobs and people moving into Texas. So
Yeah. That's great. Now let's turn to Bitcoin. How did you arrive at Bitcoin?
it's really a amazing journey, and it's really kind of a narrative that's actually become my predominant focus since 2021. And so I was at Rice from 2002 to 2006, and that was really where my entrepreneurial journey started, where I learned about equities and options and starting companies, and a lot of the innovation that I saw at Rice back then I see at A&M today. So it's really exciting. I think A&M is really going to be positioned well for the Bitcoin mining with Riot blockchain.
Right. You were at Rice as a medical student, is that right?
During my PhD years.
Your PhD time years. Yeah. Baylor was the medical school, right? And your PhD time was at Rice. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so, during that time, I really got my entrepreneurial career started, and I ran into Brian Armstrong through acquaintance because he was there in Houston during that time.
He was an undergraduate student, is that right?
He was majoring in computer science and economics.
And how did you run into him? How did that happen?
We ran through the same social circles, and so through mutual acquaintance, we hung out a couple of times. Yeah, he's a really solid guy. I think he tries to do what he says he does.
Yeah.
And so I started following him. He had a blog called Start Breaking Free. He took a leap from Deloitte to starting his own company.
Right.
And I followed him through Carwu, Argentina, and then Coinbase.
Followed him in what sense? Like online or
online, and sometimes we'd exchange emails.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But mostly, through his writings.
Through his writings, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then there was one post that particularly intrigued me was when he was starting Coinbase, back in 2012.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really interesting because he was describing this new technology known as Bitcoin. So I really became fascinated and really curious. So I went and looked up the white paper. And
What year was this, just so we can benchmark?
This was 2011, 2012.
2011. Wow.
Yeah.
What was the price of Bitcoin back then?
I got in Bitcoin back then. It was around under $100.
Wow.
So that was
amazing.
Yeah, and
Wow.
For the listeners out there, it's really interesting because if you take Bitcoin as an asset class and you look at the performance of it,
Yeah.
it's actually since 2012 up to now, it's outperformed
Everything.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's the best investment in the history of the world.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, from inception, I think like going from 70 cents
Yeah.
to a peak of $70,000. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing in the world that's ever come close to that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But $100, I mean, below 100, that's pretty early. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really early.
So just curious, where was it? I mean, there wasn't a Coinbase yet, right? That didn't exist yet. Where would you buy Bitcoin at that time?
Well, back then you could buy it off of an exchange called Mt. Gox.
Right.
I didn't do that because it was all overseas, and so when Brian started offering the ability to buy Bitcoin off of Coinbase, that's where I started. That's where I bought my first coins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were one
Yeah.
of those first Coinbase customers.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure which customer I was, but I was pretty early. I think within a week or two when they were allowing.
Really, that early? Huh?
Yeah.
Hey, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I know Brian's doing bigger things now.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting story to
I
tell.
hope you held on to it.
Yes, I did.
Great.
Yeah. So it's all in cold storage on a hardware wallet.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. So was your primary interest that you were buying Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Was that just you bought once, or you kept buying, or what was your plan?
Most of the time, so I bought one large batch back in 2012, and the reasoning was I had a good mentor, and they were talking about the asymmetry of Bitcoin. So you could asymmetry meaning you spend a little, but you get a lot. And so basically, he was saying, okay, you put a month's salary into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you lose it.
Right.
You're still young, you can make it up.
Sure.
But if Bitcoin explodes, it can shave 5-10 years
Right,
off your life.
Yeah.
So that was my reasoning. So
Yeah.
and I was just following it. There was a lot of times, 2013, 2017. There's almost the dark days that we're experiencing now.
Right.
And I just held because I believed in the technology. I saw a lot of applications and development and a lot of just future potential uses. So
well, now I'm just curious about this time in history. So tell us a little bit what the climate was like at that time. Bitcoin was very fringe, right? Much more so than today. Even now, it's still not fully mainstream, but much more than it is. What was it like back then? I mean, were there meetups even? Were there they didn't have conferences really on this, right?
Yeah, most of these were just like in-person you meet up at a bar, restaurant.
Yeah.
A lot of them were based in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the first Bitcoin meetups. A lot of them, I used Reddit. So just to participate in the discussion.
Yeah.
And the climate was really, what's interesting was I would watch the price of Bitcoin, and it was just exponential. It was just amazing to see how one single idea and a technology was just. So I watched it go from 90 to 100, almost triple, quadruple.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would fall 80%.
Right.
And it was just very volatile.
Right, but you still didn't sell. I mean, that's impressive that if it goes up by 5x, that's amazing return on the stock market. But
exactly.
So most stock investors would have sold by then, but you chose not to.
Yeah, I just hold on to it. After the Mt. Gox hack, I transferred all of my Bitcoins from Coinbase onto my hard wallet.
Right.
It's been a really great portion of my portfolio.
Yeah.
And right now I'm really fascinated about, just the whole ecosystem and the whole DeFi space. And, I also got into Ethereum back in 2017.
Where was that back then? What price?
Back then, Ethereum was around 100, 120, but I was, got in sub 1,000. So
Okay. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And so now let's kind of go into the weeds a little bit. I know that among the Bitcoin community, there's some controversy about the altcoins, because Bitcoin is sort of the original one and probably the most decentralized of the coins. Were you aware of any of this kind of, I guess this would you call it maybe civil war between the Bitcoiners and the altcoiners?
Yeah.
Did you have a view on that?
Yeah, it's my view is I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, I'm not an Ethereum maxi, and my view as an investor is I view things as what's going to be one is utility, what's going to be most useful, what's going to be most impactful. That's Bitcoin, that's Ethereum. Second is what is the most going to have the greatest network effects or adoption.
Right.
So as an investor, I don't really look at specifically Bitcoin has its advantages, it also has its downfalls, Ethereum as well. And so, with altcoins, it's kind of it's different because you have to really look at it in terms of whether these are protocols, software. Some people look at altcoins as small nascent tech companies, and a lot of people think it's just gambling. With altcoins, it's really that's why I study the altcoin market a lot, but I don't really invest a whole lot into it because because projects will come and go.
Right.
There's no clear dominant winner right now. For example, like there's Solana, Matic, Polkadot. Nobody knows who's gonna. So, but for early students interested in the space, I would really look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, just understand their consensus mechanisms and whether or not you want to use them for financial assets or things.
So you still believe in Bitcoin, I'm guessing?
Absolutely, yeah.
But the question is, are you still buying Bitcoin?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Even at this, that's great. Today. Well, now it's down at kind of a short-term low, so.
Yeah. So, like I said, my whole investment thesis from equities to real estate is always buy on the dips, and so the largest dips give you the best opportunities.
Right.
And so even when Bitcoin dropped to 27K a couple weeks ago, I bought in there.
Did you? Great.
So and just continue the dollar cost average.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What else are you doing? Are you doing anything? I know besides attending our Bitcoin conferences, nowadays, do you participate? How else do you participate in the Bitcoin community?
Well, I've really focused on really trying to spread content and good information and forming strategic partnerships. And so I have a podcast where I bring on entrepreneurs, really focused on Bitcoin, Ethereum, DeFi, NFTs.
Right.
I just came back from Permissionless, and I'm going to Consensus next week.
Yeah.
And so I go to these conferences really to network and really get a really fresh sense of where the state of things are. And I'm actively, blogging, creating videos, podcasts.
Great. Yeah. That's excellent. Well, thank you for joining our community.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to let you know about is that we're doing, Texas A&M is doing a lot on Bitcoin mining. So the center, the Mays Innovation Research Center, which is hosting this podcast, is forming a partnership with the Energy Institute on Bitcoin mining. And part of the reason, as you may have guessed from our conference just last month, is that Bitcoin mining is a huge growth industry in Texas.
Yeah.
Almost 10% of the world hash rate is right in Texas.
Exactly.
And we're going to collaborate with all of the miners around here, which is a lot of them are in Rockdale, which is just an hour away. And I think there's a great opportunity for providing education for students to learn about this booming industry. I think it'll only grow over time.
Yeah.
And then eventually we'd like to gather data from all the miners to become like an international data hub of Bitcoin mining data here at Texas A&M. I think it'll be a great way to elevate the university to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really right now I've seen the space going from pure speculation. Now you have all of this utility in all these, and I think with the China banning the mining, everybody coming to Texas, I think Texas is uniquely positioned to become a real leader in Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining, you have the Houston Energy Group in Houston.
Yeah.
So it's I think if A&M plays it well and is strategic, it can do very well in this space.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope to have eventually a Bitcoin mining facilities either on campus or on the RELIS campus. If you're not familiar, the RELIS campus is 8 miles north of us, which is another 2,000 acres that we have, in addition to the 5,000 we're on here. which
Yeah.
is really going to be our science and technology hub for the whole system.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. Great. And so now tell me, nowadays aside from following Bitcoin, what else are you? Tell me about your company, the
Yeah.
Financial Freedom Company. How does that work?
Yeah, so I founded Financial Freedom for Physicians in 2016 after I retired early, and it was really its mission was to empower. Initially, it was physicians to achieve financial freedom,
Yeah.
so that they could live life on their own terms. And since then it's really grown. I've written 4 books. I've spoken on most of the major physician platforms. And last year when my brand grew so much after the pandemic, I really opened it up, and I really wanted to spread the message of economic freedom. And so I really started focusing on which areas have the greatest potential to promote that idea.
And this is specifically targeted for physicians, is that right?
Well, initially it was, and
Yeah.
now it's open to it's nurses, pharmacists, and now I now have investors and business owners, coming on. So
Okay. Is there something about the doctor mindset that you specifically can speak to?
yeah,
What is that?
yeah, I think doctors were a very interesting cohort because we're some of the most intelligent people. We're very hardworking. We got the best grades. I think in terms of pivoting in the entrepreneurial mindset, which is what I do a lot of work with coaching clients and really trying to get them out of this mindset where we're fixated on a single narrative and a single path. And I try to expand that. And so with the whole blockchain and with the whole technology space, it's really helped me to help physicians understand that.
Great.
So
Great. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's still new territory for physicians.
Yeah.
And I imagine that back in 2011, 2012, you, as kind of looking into Bitcoin as a doctor, were really, you must have been it's a very small population of people who were who were doing that at that time. Right?
I think probably I was probably just only a single handful.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was so quick to adopt it was because, again, I missed the internet boom. And so, I saw what I missed out on. I missed out on Amazon and Google and Facebook. So since then, I've really been focused on what innovation is, where the world is headed, how technology plays in innovation. Because I think technology is going to be a key component in, the infrastructure and where our society goes.
For sure. Yeah, I will need to put you in touch with a friend of mine in Wisconsin, Jason, who is also a doctor who had started, just like you, I think he is an orthopedic surgeon. I think that's exactly right. I think there's something about orthopedic surgery. He attended our conference, our Bitcoin conference last year, and he emailed me afterwards, and he really felt that need for more education. He launched his own platform, which just last month, called LookingGlass.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
and he's, I'm not kidding, he's an orthopedic who got into Bitcoin.
I'll have to contact him.
You'll have to contact him. I actually had orthopedic surgery last year, so I need to ask my doctor if he's following Bitcoin. But I broke my arm. But
okay.
Yeah, I have a plate in my arm now. But I told my doctor that was the best 2 hours of my life. I was in massive pain beforehand, and then he fixed it. So that was great for me.
Yeah.
So tell me, what you're not practicing medicine anymore, right?
I retired 2016.
2016, right?
Yeah, now solely focused on managing my investments, growing my portfolio, and really just immersing myself in the crypto space and creating partnerships and creating content and spreading the message. So
and now what's let me ask you, what's the next for you, next decade or so? Do you have any big strategic moves you're making or thinking of?
Yeah, I mean the future is bright. So so now is I've grown my brand and my following. Really, I think I just coming back from permissionless, with all of the protocols with DeFi, really studying those. I think that's gonna allow investors and entrepreneurs to create greater yields with their money.
Yeah.
What I see in the future is, for example, crypto and DeFi are going to be the new, it's kind of the monetary system.
Right.
And it's going to be connected by wallets and stable coins. So that's going to sort of enable mainstream adoption. And that's going to be, that's going to be the financial payments. And then the whole economy is going to be this NFT, Web3, this social Web3 ecosystem. So it's really exciting to see everything, play out. I think, for example, just as an example, now they're creating protocols so that you can actually borrow against your NFTs. So
Right.
NFTs are going to be huge, especially.
But you said also it's a bubble, so you do believe
Yeah.
they're overvalued.
Yeah,
Yeah.
any sort of technology,
Yeah.
nascent technology, you're going to have speculation, you're going to have
Sure.
bubbles, you're going to have crashes.
Right.
And
So people paying thousands of dollars for a JPEG of a monkey, for example.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, so innovation has a trend, so it's always up and to the right, and within that you have like smaller players. Majority go to zero.
Yeah.
But then you have the Amazons and the Googles.
Sure.
So it's important to follow these trends in these spaces, and only invest money that you can afford to lose. So don't put all your eggs
Right.
in one basket. Don't put all your money into just one single coin, and just you have to diversify your assets. Asset allocation is very important.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Now, I know. I mean, some of the space is it's a little, like I said, it's a little controversial. Maybe I'm a little I'm close to some of these debates, being in the Bitcoin community here in Texas. There's a huge amount of capital that's flowing into this space.
Yeah.
I wonder how this is going to play out, given that it seems to me it's a little unprecedented. The amount of, A16Z just raised $4.5 billion.
Yeah.
Just
I
an
saw that.
insane amount on just on cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinions on sort of is that a good thing? Is it do you think that'll be good for the space?
I think it's really great for the space when you have the biggest venture capital firms investing, billions into it. I think that's just a sign that the industry is growing. Really, from these conferences, there's a buzz that really reminds me of the internet era. What I think is really great is that you have innovators and people that are willing to back a lot of these projects, and again, we talk about mass speculation and mania, but like I said, the direction of innovation always goes up and to the right. So I think it's, especially A16Z, they've made a lot of great bets, in the last 20 years.
Right.
And so, what's going to be really interesting is, Bitcoin kind of went mainstream in 2017, with all the, and now that we have a lot of institutions. So it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, my only concern is that I wish more of that money would be flowing into Bitcoin development, because it still seems to me that Bitcoin is the best asset there is. I mean, it's the most decentralized. It has the longest history.
Yeah.
It's based on good philosophical foundations.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhat disappointed that the most recent funds are not putting any of their money towards Bitcoin development. They're putting a little bit. I mean, the guy who hired the guy who started Facebook's cryptocurrency is now supposed to be starting a company, Lightspark, for Lightning development.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wish there was more on the Bitcoin side.
Yeah. We need more. I think, again, Bitcoin is the the daddy of all of and it's really kind of, if you're going to go into crypto, I would focus on Bitcoin itself. I think a lot of these firms, they're actually seeking returns. So if you're looking at it from a return standpoint, I think, Bitcoin can probably, they're predicting 10x over the next 5-10 years, but like if you compare it to, like, for example, other coins, they're probably looking for 50, 100x.
Right.
So that's probably why. But
Right.
But,
of course, those are riskier because there's like thousands of them, right?
Yeah,
so you don't
exactly.
know which one is gonna make it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. And so, do you have any other? Let's turn the conversation back to Texas A&M. Let's think about your time here as a student. What would you say? What advice would you give to students, current students, about skills or habits they should develop that turned out to be useful for you?
Oh man, like if I wish, to the listeners, I wish I could be an undergraduate now, because when I came to A&M in '96, that was right when the internet boom was really starting. So, and like I said, Gen Z really are really going to carry out. So millennials started the whole revolution, and Gen Z is where they're going to make it everything come to fruition. So there's the greatest single opportunity is right before our eyes with technology, with innovation, and so some of the advice I would really give to students, coming back is, I've lived through pre-internet all the way up to Web3. So really embrace innovation and change. Really study the trends. So really study globalization, really understand finance, really understand economics, really understand business cycles. And from there, you can get a good macro framework of how money works, how institutions work, and then tie it together with your academic career. So your academic career gets you, your fundamentals and makes your contacts, and really focus on excelling academically. Also focus on what they call soft skills. So communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, management. Really, emotional resiliency is really important post-COVID, and really invest in your network. So I had to learn that. I learned that through A&M. A lot of my best contacts came through networking, and that's really set you up for success. So keep an open mind and really, really invest in your friendships, your relationships. Really hunker down and study, get good grades, and then from there, the sky's the limit.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any desire to combine these two interests of yours in medicine and Bitcoin or crypto? Is that something that you want to eventually fuse together in some way? Have you thought of that?
Well, that's a really great question, and that comes down to the infrastructure of our healthcare system. So I really became an entrepreneur because I felt frustrated from the way things were done with the existing healthcare system.
Yeah.
So in order to really make the impact, I had to go outside of it. But what's really interesting is that there's a lot of innovation with healthcare IT, with the blockchain, SaaS,
all
of this, patient records, identity management. So
Yeah.
all of these can combine to really revolutionize healthcare. The problem is with healthcare, it's almost like there's a lot of bureaucracy and there's a lot of regulation, so it's hard to really come in and change things. But like I said, like blockchain, Bitcoin, all these especially NFTs may play an important role in healthcare, especially in terms of just like billing, insurance, payments, identity management. But I think that's going to be a longer way, just because of all the existing infrastructure.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been very interesting, Chris. Any other thoughts you have for Texas A&M or students about either your life or this area?
Yeah. I came to Texas A&M 1996, and it was one of the best decisions I made. It really set me up for success, professionally. And it really, like I was telling Karok here, I was driving down University Avenue, and what was previously the polo fields now are like these huge, gigantic buildings, and really like A&M today was nothing like it was, the amount of innovation I see here happening was the same amount of innovation I saw, at Baylor and Rice in the early 2000s. So, like I said, if A&M really capitalizes on this Bitcoin mining space, it can do very well.
That's right. And I hope it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it will.
So
well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for coming on our show and taking the time to talk to us. It was great to see you again. I hope to see you at all of our upcoming Bitcoin events.
Yeah.
This year, we'll at least have a conference and hopefully several mining panels.
Yeah.
And if any of you are curious, please go to our YouTube channel to watch not just other episodes of the talk show, but you can actually find a good archive of all our prior events on Bitcoin. We have several of our panel discussions from last year are still online and very educational. I mean, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of mining, there's a lot of innovation there. People don't realize it.
Yeah.
And really the energy and the economics of power, then you can start with our video online. So.
Yeah, it's been great, and I really enjoy the talk and the work that you're doing here at Maze.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah.